right, we've finished a brief overview of chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. Groovy. And I thought now would be a good time to ask a couple of questions. These aren't academic questions like, what did he say in verse 1 or what did he say in verse 6? It's more along the lines of, when you consider the summary of what we just covered, and the summary being, what did John say? What did John believe? Whether or not you believe what John believed or agree with what John said, my goal here was merely to present what John said and what John believed. And here's what John believed. John believed that Jesus was God. So here's the question. Let's assume John is correct. Let's assume that John is correct when he says that Jesus was God. What are the implications of that? That's one question. What are the implications of it? What would the implications of that be to you as an individual? If Jesus is God, what should you do? Another question that comes to mind is, if Jesus is God, why did God do what he did? Why did God become flesh and dwell among us? Why did God appear to us in the form of Jesus? What was his point? Why did he need to do that? Those are questions that might be answered further on down the road, but those are important questions. The thought being that if Jesus is God, the implications are pretty significant. For one, if Jesus is God and John is correct, then what Jesus says is important. Because Jesus is going to speak about a lot of things. He's going to speak about life on the other side of death's curtain. He's going to speak about life on this side of death's curtain. He's going to speak about overcoming. He's going to be speaking about changing. He's going to be speaking about how your life can be changed for the better. He's going to speak about all sorts of things. And if Jesus is God, then these things that he says, they need to be paid attention to. So, my thought questions, real simple. If Jesus is God, as John says he is, what does that mean to you? And secondly, if Jesus is truly God, the way John says he is, shouldn't we pay attention to what Jesus says and what Jesus does? Because that is going to give us our answers to the last question, which is, why on earth would God do this? Why is it such a big deal that God had to come to earth and put on human form and walk among us? Those are the questions I'd like you to consider. And with that, we will now move into what John the Baptist had to say about Jesus. And we will look at Jesus' first words as recorded in the Gospel of John. Mr. G out. Bye.